Welcome to the Pewtercast. I'm Brent Allen, your host. Today is September 29th, 2016, and this is episode 13. Change the culture, change the season.
When a change comes, some species feel the urge to migrate. They call it Sukkenruhe, a pull of the soul to a far-off place, following a scent in the wind, a star in the sky. The ancient message comes, calling the kindred to take flight and gather together. Only then can they hope to survive the cruel season to come.
Peter Petrelli.
What? Are you doing this?
You look different without the scar.
I don't know you.
Not yet. My name is Hiro Nakamura. I'm from the future, and I have a message for you. I don't have much time. I'm risking a rift just by coming here. The girl, you have to save her.
What girl?
The cheerleader. It's the only way to prevent it.
Prevent what?
Everything. Listen to me. She must live. The painter, Isaac, go to him. He will know. When I call you, you must tell me where we meet. You told me many times how lost you felt before it all started. This is what you've been waiting for. Be the one we need.
Wait!
Save the cheerleader, save the world.
Wait, Hiro! I don't understand!
Well, hey, Bucs fans, we may not be saving any cheerleaders or the world through what we're trying to do, but we are definitely trying to save our season. We are definitely trying to save our team. And guys, I cannot wait to dive into this episode. This is not how I thought this episode was going to go, the way it's going to be laid out, as you guys will see as the episode goes on. But it's something I couldn't ignore. This is a topic that I have been talking about really since episode 1, since I very first started this podcast. I mentioned it in episode 1. A couple of people grabbed onto it. I turned around and made the entirety of episode 2 all about this particular topic, and it has actually reared its head. The words have come up, and people have been grabbing onto it, and people are talking about it. People are railing up against it, which is not unexpected. And of course, how could I not turn this particular episode into one where we're going to talk about what's going on with the Bucs? And something you may notice is this episode is coming out a little bit later in the week than it normally is. And I try to record on Tuesdays, and I keep Wednesdays as like my backup day. And for this week, I had to go to the backup day to record on Wednesday. And so I sit down last night. Today's Thursday. I sit down last night to record this episode, and my teenager comes in the door going, "Dad, I got this project that's due tomorrow," and I immediately turn into Dad because I was so mad at her. I was so mad. Well, how long have you known about this, sweetie? For 2 weeks. Why are you just now doing it? I don't know. Why did I let you go out and spend the night at your friend's house this week? Because I wanted to. I was so mad. Hey, listen, before we go any further, I've got a little bit of business to take care of. A bunch of people have sent in some feedback on iTunes, and I want to thank you guys for doing it. And I'm still kind of trying to catch up. And, one of the things I have that if you write me an iTunes review, I'm going to read it on air. So I've got 2 that I want to dive into today. The first one is from, all right, sit back for it, Prime 6628728 says, "I enjoy hearing a podcast by fans for fans. You can tell he is a fan of our Buccaneers. Give him a listen." Well, thank you, Prime, whatever those numbers are. I really appreciate your feedback. I really appreciate you leaving an iTunes message, and I love that you like having something that's by a fan for fans, because that's certainly what this is. I'm not a media guy. I don't get the media passes, though. If whoever at One Buck Place wants to give me one, I will happily take it. But I'm not one of those guys. I'm just like you guys. I'm a fan. I love the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I can't get enough of them. The dirty little secret is I even tried to quit on the team, and I couldn't. Like, I'm that addicted to the team. I tried to quit, but I just couldn't. And I love the Buccaneers. And this podcast is it's directed towards us as fans, to talk to us as a fan base. So, yeah, thanks so much for that. I really appreciate that. I am definitely a big fan. Review number 2 is from Bucs fan Stan. He says, a fan review podcast after each game. What more could you ask for? Beer? Wings? Maybe. Seriously, it's a very well done podcast. I listen after every game. Well, thank you, Stan, Bucs fan Stan, and glad to have you listening after every game. I try to really get them up just as quickly as I can. Some things sometimes delay that just a little bit, but you were getting them up just as soon as we can right after the game, and then we have the main episode, which comes later in the week. Hey, you know what? Beer and wings is not a bad... If you're eating beer and wings after watching a Tampa Bay Buccaneers football game, win or lose, while listening to this podcast, that's probably not a bad way to do this podcast, people. Probably not at all. Well, hey, listen, guys, if you would like to send in a review, I would really appreciate it. It helps spread the word about the podcast. And you can go over to iTunes to do that. That's honestly the best place. You have to go to search. If you're already subscribed, you go over and search for the Pewtercast like it's a brand new podcast that you've never done before. So you go search for it, type in the Pewtercast. We pop up for like the first 1 or 2. And it's just so helpful to get the word out, and it gives me feedback, letting me know what you guys are liking or not liking, or how we can make some changes. Another way you can get in contact with me is through an email. If you want to leave me some feedback on the show, I welcome all feedback. And you can do that at thepewtercast@gmail.com. Or you can shoot me a tweet or a Facebook comment. Both of those are just at the Pewtercast for their respective sites. I got one more bit of news to share, and well, it's not really news, it's a big thank you. It's a big thank you to my new friend Rick, who made a very, very generous donation this week of actual dollars. He went to paypal.com/thepewtercast, and he left some money to help keep the Pewtercast going. And Rick, thank you so much for doing that. If I had like official sponsors of individual people, you would have sponsored this entire episode, and I cannot thank you enough for the generous donation. We are still building to kind of pay for the season. We've not done that yet, and I said this a while ago. If every single one of my listeners who downloads this show on a weekly basis, if you guys all sent me just $1, just one time you sent me $1, this entire show would be paid for the entire season. Actually, I'll tell you, more than the season, it'd be paid for the entire first year, all the way through next May, which would just be awesome. Now listen, I know not everybody can donate, or that everybody will, and that's fine, but let's just say a tenth of you. What if a tenth of you went and made a donation of, let's say, $10? It'd have the same effect, because, math works that way. Now, this would normally be the place where I would bring on a guest for the week, but as I mentioned a little bit earlier, there were some things that happened that I felt like I just needed the time to be able to talk about it. And they weren't things that I felt like I could have conversations with other people about too much. So on purpose, this week there's no guest. It's just me. You guys have to put up with me talking the entire show. So let's take a look at what the show's going to be about. In our first segment today, we're going to review the game, just like we always do. We'll go through our overall thoughts. We'll look at the offense. We'll look at the defense, special teams. We'll grade out the game, and we'll take a look there. In our second segment today, where we would normally have our top 5, we're going to forgo that, and it's going to be a segment that I call Koetter Speaks. Because as you may know, Coach Koetter came out and he said something this week that struck a nerve, and it struck a big chord with me as well. And we're going to be talking about his comments about the culture around One Buc Place, particularly around the football team, as he has pointed out on several occasions. And in our final segment, which is usually a big discussion segment where we're talking about news and different things, there was one bit of really big news that hit this week, and it kind of put a seal on a story that's been going on really since the summer. And you guys may have listened to a bonus content episode that we put out called the ASJ Situation, and then there was a follow-up to that was the ASJ Situation 2.0. Well, I'm going to name this entire segment the ASJ Situation 3.0. It's going to end the trilogy, because I'm sure you guys already know how that has worked itself out. But I've got some stuff specifically I want to talk about ASJ and that whole situation and what that means for the Bucs. So let's get into it, guys. We'll be right back.
all you ever do is fight. But there's a reason that the road is long. It takes some time to make it courage strong. Hold on tight a little longer. What don't kill you make you stronger. Get back up, 'cause it's a whole love.
Welcome back, Bucs fans. Brent Allen, your host. This is episode number 13 at Change the Culture, Change the Season. And we are going to be taking a look in this segment at the game that we just played this last Sunday against the LA Rams. Whew, I thought I was going to say St. Louis, but I didn't. I said LA Rams. As I'm sure you guys know, the Bucs lost this particular game 37 to 32 with a 5-point difference between that, and it really should not have been that. The Bucs should have won this game. I'm going to go ahead and say it. My overall thoughts on this, the Bucs should have won. They should have won. There were too many opportunities for them to pull this game out, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. This game, I'll tell you. All right, something about this game. Let's talk about it. As opposed to the game in Arizona, this game has set better with me as the week has gone on. Like, I feel much better about this game the further I get from it than what we actually experienced on that night when that happened. Now, listen, make no mistake, losses suck. And no matter by how many points, it doesn't matter if it was a 5-point loss or a 33-point loss, losses suck. And as people pointed out last week, at the end of the season, the 5-point loss and the 33-point loss, they count the same in the record book. They count exactly the same in the record book. But still, at least we competed. We really did. Now, you can say what you want about our defense or about our offense. You can say what you want about the Rams and whether or not they're actually a good team. This was a team we were able to compete with. Now, I know that doesn't offer a ton of solace, but it is something, all right? Now, I'll say this. I think the biggest thing about this game, the biggest thing that will have lasting repercussions for years on the Bucs, if it's handled well, is the public conversation that this game has now created, specifically based off what Koetter has said about the culture of the team. Now, those comments would not have come without this particular game, and I think that's going to be the legacy of this game. Is that it has begun a conversation about the Bucs and about the culture and about how things are going to happen. And when we look back, back on what changed for those Bucs back in the late 90s, it was that shit ends now moment that Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks had. This could be that moment for the new generation of Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This could be it right here. We may look back on this being the turning point. Now, talking about sitting on this game this week, here's what I've come to realize, just kind of overall. I think the offense did its job. I mean, they put up 26 points on the board on their own. They were aided by another 6 points from the defense getting a pick six, which awesome for them. But I think the offense did its job. The offense has shown that they're actually pretty good. Everything notwithstanding, I think the offense is pretty good. What's been killing us this year so far, and just in 2 games really, and even in the third game, in that first game with Atlanta, the defense is what's been killing us. Now, I feel like they look good for most of the game, but there just tends to be these handful of plays that the other team gets an explosive play on, or something happens and there's enough of those that stack up mixed in throughout the course of the entire game that this is what's killing us. Now, granted, our defense finally got their first takeaway, and it was a pick six, and it was just easy. Quan was just sitting there. He was like a lion just waiting to pounce. I mean, if you'd watch, everything else was moving around him. He was just moving in slow motion, picked off that ball and got back in. But the defense is killing us. And when I think about that, and what I've thought about over the course of this week is this. And it's the one reprieve I can think of about this whole situation, Bucs fans. And I'd like to know if you agree with me on this or not. For the offense, here's what I realize. This is their second year in this system. Koetter was in as the offensive coordinator last year, and he's in as the head coach this year with the new offensive coordinator, but really he's still leading the charge on the offense, okay? This is their second year. Like, they're working out pretty well in this system now in their second year. They worked out fairly well in their first year. They're doing even better in their second year. But for the defense, guys, let's not forget that this is a new scheme. It's a new coach. It's a new mindset. And there's a lot of old players. And I mean a lot of old players that have just been through the scheme mill. You know, every year, every 2 years, the scheme on defense has been changing. It's been changing. It's been changing. It's been changing. There's not been any consistency. You know, we talked about how important it was in the offseason after they fired Lovey, especially, or even before they fired Lovey, when the threat of Dirk Koetter leaving was looming, how important it was for Jameis to have consistency moving from his first year, his rookie year, into his second year. And our defense has not had that consistency. And even in this offseason, while we've had that consistency on offense, I think it's easy to forget that we have not had that consistency in the defense. And Mike Smith is playing, while they made some big changes, they're still playing with a lot of the old players from old systems. And there's a lot of junk in there that's got to be worked out. So, you know, a lot of people want to place a lot of blame on Mike Smith for how the defense is doing because he's the defensive coordinator, right? And he is the guy responsible. Let's make no mistake about that. However, I think for us as Bucs fans, this is me as a fan talking to you as fans, I would say, hey, let's slow our roll on getting all up in arms about the defense. Okay, now we still need to hold them to a high standard. We absolutely do. But at the same time, let's not get the pitchforks out for Mike Smith, and let's realize this is his first year with this team. Okay? And this was not a defensive heavy draft. I mean, this one was kind of split fairly evenly between defense and offense. And in fact, they've not had a big defensive draft for several years since Jason Light has taken over. So let's just remember that, and let's put the pitchforks away, and let's get pissed off when the defense doesn't do its job. But no pitchforks. We're not firing Mike Smith, okay? All right. That said, all right, let's take a look at the offense. And there's no other place to start in the offense except for at the number one spot in offense, which is going to be the quarterback, which for us is, of course, Jameis Winston. And here's the thing. I don't know what to make of Jameis Winston in this game, guys. I mean, you know, on the one hand, there were times when he was horribly inaccurate in this game, and he just wasn't good. He took a couple sacks. There was the fumble. There was an interception. He just didn't look good. And then there were times when he was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. You can't be brilliant and not get 405 yards and 3 touchdowns. And even in the midst of a loss, be nominated as the FedEx Player of the Week. He was brilliant. Which leads me to say, like, at best, Jameis was inconsistent. And he was just inconsistent, and that's kind of where I got to leave Jameis. And you know what? He did great in fantasy this last week. He did a fantastic job for me on fantasy this week. He did great. That was awesome, and he was just inconsistent. And don't even get me started on that final play. The final play where he should have just turned up the field and ran into the end zone. And you can give me all kinds of, well, it looked different from his position, and you never know when everything could have collapsed and people could have tackled him, and he was just trying to give somebody a chance. No. That's bullcrap. This is Jameis Winston. He could have made it. He could have gotten in there. At least I think or at least he should have taken a shot. He should have taken that shot and tried to run in that ball into the end zone by himself and really become a hero. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But he was just inconsistent. That's the best thing I think I can say about Jameis for this particular game. And he still had some amazing stats and some not so good ones. All right, how about running backs? All right, let's look at that. Charles Sims. Doug Martin's out. Everybody knows that, right? Charles Sims is in, and if you've been listening to this, you know I've been kind of hard on Charles Sims. I've said Charles Sims does not look very good in Doug Martin's spot. Not as much as, who was it? Mike James, that's who it was. Mike James, who was the number 3 running back. You know, he stepped up and he looked really good in Sims' spot. He looked better in Sims' spot than Sim looked in Martin's spot. But I thought he looked really good this last week. You know, Chuck Sims gets in there, and I was pleasantly surprised by Chuck Sims this week. He hit the holes hard. He broke some tackles. He got through. He had the touchdown. Charles Sims, you know, and I think he averaged 4 yards a carry. Hey, listen, you're averaging 4 yards a carry. You're never seeing fourth down. Okay, you take away an explosive play, and he's only averaging 3. You know what? That's not bad for a running back. It's not bad. You get 3 yards a carry. That's 9 yards. You know, one little pass, and you're good. you've hit the first down. So, I know 9 yards doesn't get you a first down and 3 downs, but, not bad. Not bad. I was pleasantly surprised. Now, we still miss Doug Martin. Make no mistake about that. We absolutely miss Doug Martin. But Sims was a big surprise. Jacquizz Rodgers, I liked him. I thought he did really well. I'd like to see him get some more touches. I thought we depended a lot on our passing game in this particular game. For whatever reason, the Rams just shut us down on the run game, which seems to have been the case for the first 3 games. We have not ran the ball like we should have through the first 3 games, and I think we need to get back to the run. Which may be a lot of what's affecting with Jameis, of the inaccuracies. He's just taking more pass attempts than he really should on a mixed level. So, but I liked them both. I thought our running game looked pretty good for the most part this week. As far as the passing game, Evans and Humphreys, I can't say enough about those 2 guys. They both had 100+ yards in receptions this week. Those guys are studs. Those guys are in place where they are for a reason. Vincent Jackson, on the other hand, I said it last week and I'll say it again this week. What the hell? What? I don't get it. Great, he's an older guy, so he takes a couple games to kind of get into it. I don't understand. Yeah, and then there was that time in the fourth quarter where like 3 balls in a row kept getting thrown to Vincent Jackson. And I yelled out, I said, "Stop throwing to him. He's not catching the ball. Stop." Okay, great. He caught that one ball. Woo. He's not catching the ball. Stop throwing to him. I don't know what's going on with Vincent Jackson, people. I really don't. I listened to his radio show. He sounds great. But I don't know what's going on with the man. And I'd love to figure it out. And hey, listen, I'm all for giving the guy chances. Not at the end of the game. Not when the game is on the line. Okay? I don't think Vincent Jackson needs a morale boost. I don't think he needs a confidence boost. I don't think that's what's wrong with him. Something else is going. Maybe it's just age. Maybe the age is catching up with him, like we all have kind of thought. I don't think it's a want to or even a will to for Vincent Jackson. But I don't know. I really don't. I'm not in the guy's mind. I don't think he's just writing out a contract either. I think Vincent Jackson really wants to play. I think that's where he is. And we've seen it time and time again when players want to keep playing, but they just can't. And for Vincent Jackson's sake and for the team's sake, I hope he pulls out of it, because I would hate to see him get to the end of this year, have a real crappy year, or maybe even get benched, and then have that be the note he goes out on. I would hate to see that. So I really hope he gets it together. I hope he has a great year, and then I hope he retires. That's what I'm kind of hoping for Vincent Jackson right now. Cameron Brate stepped up great. ASJ got kicked off the team. That makes Brate number 1. He's holding that down by himself. I thought he stepped up and he did great. And look what happened. Wasn't he one of the ones who got a touchdown? I think so. I think he was. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he was. Guys, overall, I think the offense did pretty well. Offensive line, I can't say enough about. This is a Pro Bowl offensive line. Ali Marpet, Donovan Smith, which, by the way, if you're not listening to their radio show, I think it's on Tuesday nights with Casey Phillips, make sure you do that. Subscribe to the official Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. If you don't listen to any other one, listen to that one. It just comes out on Tuesday nights. They're hilarious. Those 2 guys are freaking hilarious. But Donovan Smith, Ali Marpet are playing amazing. Joe Hawley is awesome. Kevin Pamphil's holding it down. He's doing his job. I don't miss J.R. Sweezy. I miss Logan Mankins. I don't miss J.R. Sweezy. And DeMar Dotson, I mean, he's doing his deal. He's doing what he has to do. So, hey, shout out to the offensive line. You guys go eat you another 4,000 calories at a meal, all right? You guys are doing great. So that's going to do offense. Let's look over at the defense real quick. Here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say on defense. All right, let's look at the positives first. Levante, Gerald, Quan, clutch. Every single one of them. And you can say what you want about Gerald. Listen, he's clutch. When you watched him, he gets double teamed. When he busts through the double team, the dude's awesome. The dude's amazing. And you can, people can say, oh, he's eating up a $100 million contract. He's not getting any balls swatted. He's not whatever. Listen, I don't listen to any of that noise. Gerald McCoy is a freaking beast. Okay. And you're not going to find a much bigger Gerald McCoy apologist that doesn't receive a paycheck from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers than me. All right. You're probably not. Quan, amazing. Levante, man, when I saw Levante take that timeout 3 minutes into the game, there was a guy that I sat back and I went, that's a captain. Taking a timeout 3 minutes into the game, and that's hardcore. That could get you in trouble. But he knew what needed to be done in that moment for the play of what he was seeing. Something wasn't happening. Something wasn't being communicated. And he stepped up and he made a call. And his call was to call timeout. And, yeah, that's great. Everyone else on defense, yeah, not so much. Sorry, guys. Sorry, defense. I need to see more out of you. We've got to see more out of you. You guys, whatever's going on between you and Mike Smith, maybe you're still learning a scheme or maybe whatever. I don't know what it is. But I need you guys to step up. You need to step up. I think safety remains our biggest area of concern on the entire team to me. The entire team. This is the biggest area of concern for me is our safety. It is just not up to what it is. Chris Conte had a great first week. Last week. Keith Tandy, fine, whatever. I mean, there's nothing splashy about the man. These guys are porous. They're letting stuff through. I mean, the secondary is looking like it did from last year. And it's like the impact of Jacquez Smith and Robert Ayers being gone to injury is palpable. You can touch it. Didn't realize that our defense hung on these two guys as much as it is. Robert Ayers, Jacquez Smith, maybe these guys are just part of the heart and soul of the defense that we kind of saw that in Robert Ayers. We saw that a lot, but maybe this just goes to highlight how important they are to just being on the field and just playing. Overall, about the defense, I'll say the defense isn't doing its job. Even Mike Smith, defensive coordinator, says that they are not doing his job. Of course, he puts the blame on himself first, as well he should. He's the coach. He's the the defensive coordinator, as well he should. But when people can defend what's going on with the defense all they want, but when the defensive coordinator is coming out saying, "Yep, we're just not getting it done," then the defense ain't getting it done, y'all. It ain't happening. Special teams, Roberto Aguayo missed a couple kicks. Hashtag I'm still with 19. I'm with 19. Hashtag. Guys, here's the thing. He's a rookie. Okay? Listen, he did not... Okay. A lot of people are putting a lot of pressure on this guy because he got drafted in the second round, and I'll say it again. He did not draft himself in the second round. Okay? He's a rookie. All right? And you know what? With Roberto Aguayo, I'm going to ride the bull on this one. I'm going to ride the bull, meaning kind of the same thing of what I said for defense. We're going to continue to hold him to a high standard. I'm not going to boo the guy, though. I'm not going to try to replace him. Not this year. No. Not this year. We're going to let him work it out. How many fantastic kickers, long-time kickers do we have currently playing in the NFL right now whose rookie year was, not so good? How many? I think Vinatieri was one of them. Gotskowski, I can never say these guys' names. Josh Brown, I think, didn't have a really great rookie year. Guys, let's just ride the bull on this one, okay? And keep holding them to a high standard. Roberto Aguayo, got to make those kicks, bro. You got to make those kicks because games can turn on kicks. Now, those 4 points that you missed do not make up the 5-point difference that we have here. They don't. And you can say, well, yeah, but if we would have made those kicks, we would have gone for other extra point kicks. And then, we wouldn't have been so sketchy to let him try some field goals later on. Yeah, maybe. You're probably right. Well, and that takes me to some final thoughts here. Okay, for the sake of time, let's move on. We'll get final thoughts. We'll wrap up this game because I got to get on from it. Here's the thing, guys. This game was a loss. No need to sugarcoat it. And people are looking for a person to blame for this loss. They're looking for a place to point the finger and say, that's why we lost the game. Jameis lost the game because he couldn't hit anybody and he didn't make that big run at the end. Aguayo lost the game because he didn't make the kicks, and that sent us chasing after extra points, and we didn't feel comfortable putting it out there. The defense lost us the game because they let so many points get up on the board. Mike Smith lost us the game because he didn't tell the defense what to do better. Dirk Koetter lost us the game because he couldn't manage the clock. I've even seen on Twitter and Facebook this week, people are saying that Jason Light is to blame because he hasn't drafted well, or because he drafted Roberto, or because his draft picks are a bust and he should have drafted that person and should have drafted that person. Oh my gosh. If I hear one more person sit back and go, well, we could have drafted that person. The draft is over, people. Okay, what do you want? What do you want from saying, well, we should have drafted that person? There is nothing we can do about it right now. And you know what? Maybe we shouldn't have drafted that person. Maybe we should have. But there's no sense in even going to that right now because we can't do anything about it. Oh, well, look at what he's doing with this other team. He was on the board. He could be doing that over here with us. Yeah, maybe. Maybe not. You know, if the culture around our team is as bad as it's so bad that our head coach is calling it out in public 3 times to the media in 1 week, maybe that guy would not have come here and done as well. Maybe he wouldn't. Guys, the truth is, everyone contributed to this loss. Everyone did. They failed. Well, let me take that back. Maybe they failed to contribute, and that's why we lost. Everyone except for Jason Light. I've got to take him off the board. I think Jason Light is doing a great job. Jason Light is the best general manager the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have ever seen in their entire existence. There wasn't just one person that lost this game. There wasn't just one unit that lost this game. It was everybody combined. Okay? Now, Coach Koetter, let's talk about him. Final thought real quick. Bad game clock management is the thing that people keep saying about him. Listen, he made a bad call. Okay? And truthfully, maybe the call itself wasn't bad. Okay? It just didn't work out. And specifically, I'm talking about where he didn't call a timeout 3 minutes, with several minutes left in the game. He didn't call a timeout. Dude on the headset was yelling at him. The game management coach was, call a timeout, call a timeout, call a timeout, call a timeout. If Coach Koetter had just not heard him or just ignored him because for whatever weird reason it was, then okay, yeah, maybe we should give him a little bit more grief. But you know what? Coach Koetter sat there. He knew that he was supposed to take a timeout. He heard the guy telling him to take a timeout. And he made a cognitive decision based on what he saw in the moment to take a risk, okay? To take a risk. And inherent in a risk is the idea that it doesn't work out. And this was a case where it didn't work out. And I got to tell you something. I would rather have someone, especially a coach, fail trying to do something rather than fail trying not to do something. Now, in the future, he's more likely to take the timeout. Did that particular one cost us the game? Yes, it did. Did Roberto Aguayo missing kicks cost us the game? Yes, it did. Did Jameis Winston not running that ball into the end zone at the very end cost us the game? Yes, it did. Did Jameis's inaccuracies cost us the game? Yes, it did. That all cost us the game, people, okay? You can't just point at one person. It all did. Any one of those things that would have been better might have actually won this game. It was that close. Now, Jameis Winston, I am sure you are not listening to this podcast. I'm sure you'll never give it a listen, but on the off chance that you do, I want to talk to you directly for just a moment. Man, that last play, it sure looked to me like you could have trotted it into the end zone. Now, whether you could have or not, Jameis, listening to you in press conferences, I feel like you have bitten off on something, and I need you to spit it out. All right? I need you to go backwards for a little bit. All right? And here's what it is. You keep talking about you're just trying to give this guy a chance to make a play. Trying to give this guy a chance to make a play. Trying to give this guy a chance to make a play. Jameis, you're the leader on this team. There are times when the leader has to put the team on his back and carry the team through. The leader is the one who gets the ball in clutch moments, in game-deciding moments. That's not the time to give a guy a chance, especially when you're the guarantee. Jameis, you're the guarantee here. No one else on this team has your fight, your tenacity, and your will to win. That's why you're the leader. And I got to tell you, Jameis, I'll take all 3 of those in somebody any day of the week over somebody else's chance to make a play. I'll pick you, Jameis, over any of them any day of the week when the game is on the line. And let me tell you what, Jameis, you keep that ball, you tuck it, you run, you break tackles. You remember that Atlanta game last year, that big play everybody keeps talking about? You just keep going. You knew what you had to do. You get it in there. Jameis, that's not selfish. That's not showboating. That's doing what it takes to win. That's part of building a winning culture, my friend. And if anyone in the locker room looks down on you for it, you send them to me. I'm a pretty big dude. I know they are too, but I'm a pretty big dude. And I'll talk to them. I ain't going to fight them because they will kick my butt. But I'll talk to them. I'll get real mean in their face. Because they are the ones who are part of the problem, Jameis. If they look down on you for that, they're the ones who are part of the problem, not you. And then they need to find a new team to play for next year. It's time to trim the fat off this team, people. And you, Jameis, you have to be okay with letting those guys go. The guys that have a losing mindset, you've got to be okay with letting them go. Now, listen, I'm going to tell you something, Jameis. Leadership brings the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And I know that losing Austin Seferian-Jenkins this week hurt. You took it personally. As well you should have. All right, what that shows is that you're connected to your guys. That's part of the lows I'm talking about. It's the lowest of lows. It's heartbreaking when one of your guys that you have invested time in it just doesn't work out because you feel like it was somehow your fault. You feel like if you could have done something else, if you could have done something better, they would have succeeded more. That's part of what makes you a great leader. It hurts when you have guys go. But part of your job as a leader is to exterminate the losing mentality, and that means getting rid of people who carry that mentality. And you got to let them go. Leaders see eternal hope in all of the people that are under them. They really do. But let me tell you something. A part of having a winning culture means you take the ball yourself into the end zone on that game-winning drive when you have the open lane. Sincerely, Brent Allen, host of the Pewtercast. All right, grades for the game this week. Offense, I'm going to give them a B. I thought they had a B effort, and that's part of they had some inconsistencies. You know, they weren't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I thought they were pretty good. Yeah, I mean they put up 32 points. Okay, 26 points. It's not a bad day's work. Not a bad day's work. Okay, that's winning numbers right there. You could win with 26 points on the board. It's better to have 37, but you can win with 26 points on the board. Defense, I give them a C-. There were times when they were doing their job just fine, but this is the thing that killed us. They let the other team have too many points. The other team just had too many points, and there's not much we can do for that. Special teams, I give them a B-. There was nothing explosive on special teams this week. No big returns, certainly no points scored, no big stops. Brian Anger continues to be awesome. Roberto Aguayo, he's a rookie. Hashtag I'm with 19. Overall, guys, my overall grade for this game, for the Bucs on this game, is a C+. That's I think the best I could do. It's probably also the lowest. I might go to a C. It's probably a C+. That's where I'd give them this game. They competed, guys. Make no mistake, they competed in this game. Okay, they should have won. There were plenty of opportunities for them to do it. They just got to capitalize on it. Well, guys, that's going to do it for this segment. Now, I'd love to know your thoughts on my thoughts. You can send me an email to thepewtercast@gmail.com, or you can shoot me a tweet at thepewtercast, or you can go to facebook.com/thepewtercast. I do respond to each piece of communication that I get, so just send them on in. And, hey, before we get out of here, let's take a look at this week's poll.
It's real bad, okay? I don't like those numbers at all.
Just one poll? Those things aren't scientific.
Yes, they are. All this is science. This is math.
All right, well, in this week's poll, we asked a really simple question. When do you think the Bucs will get their next win? And a little bit of amusement on that when I spelled win at the beginning. I spelled it W-I-N instead of W-E-H-N. And kind of made me do a little facepalm on myself. I can't believe I put that out there. But when do you think the Bucs will get their next win? The choices were this week versus Denver, next week versus Carolina, after the bye week versus the 49ers, or later in the season. And now, I don't know what you guys thought. I don't know what you guys think. I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, Denver is going to be such a tough test. It really is. And Carolina's not going to be much easier, especially on a Monday night game in their house. Though Carolina's not as awesome as they were last year. They are certainly vulnerable. So, if they have to split these next two games, I'd give them a better chance to win in Carolina than I do Denver. I hate to say that, but and I'll say this: I still don't think that there's a game on the schedule that the Bucs can't win. They could win in Denver or against Denver at home. They could win with Carolina. But 50% of you guys said that the next win is going to come against the 49ers the week after the bye. 32% of you guys said it was going to go against Denver, and then Carolina, and later in the season split it with 9% of the vote. So thank you to everyone who voted in this week's poll. And guys, let's say this. Let's say this about winning. Okay, coming up here with Broncos, we are ending the first quarter of our season. Let's say we lose. Okay, we go 1-3 in the first quarter of the season. You know what? Last year we went 1-3 too. We did, didn't we? And then in the second quarter last year we went 2-2. Third quarter we went 3-1, and that's when everybody said, "Hey, if we run this table, we could actually be looking at a playoff berth." Guys, if we lose this coming week in Denver, it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of our season. There's still hope for the season. That's going to do it for this segment, guys. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with Change the Culture, Change the Bucs.
I've been trying to figure out a way to articulate all this for 20 years, and I still can't do it. The complexities are incredible of what it takes, and there's an old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. To win a Stanley Cup the way we did, it obviously took a tremendous amount of people to be involved, not only from the organization but outside. And if you just look behind us, could we have won the Stanley Cup without JD? Maybe not. Could we have won it without Sam? Could we have won it without anybody? Maybe not. Maybe because the frequency would have been changed. I mean, it gets to be that fine-tuned of everybody being involved on a day-to-day basis and living together. And then you bring in the momentum from the fans and from the incredible generations of people around it to come in and really kind of understand what the team is trying to accomplish. And collectively, you build momentum. And I think what everybody's trying to articulate here, and as Joey so eloquently did, maybe a little unconventional, I think what we're trying to say is that you can't do this without creating a culture. And there's a great saying that culture before strategy. You can have all the strategy, you can have all the talks, you can have all the leadership, but if you don't create culture, none of it matters. And I think what happened that particular year is that we nailed culture. And I think the fans understood it, the team understood it, and everything else blossomed because of it. And here we sit 20 years later, still trying to, tell the story, and so many different stories, and it's forever. It's forever, and thank you all for your part that you played in it, because without you, we probably couldn't have done it either. So here we are.
Welcome back, Pewtercast fans. Today we are foregoing our top 5 segment to discuss something that has really blown up over the last week, over the last several days. Coach Koetter, 3 times since the end of the game, has talked to the media and subsequently has talked about the culture of the team and how we need to change it. And can I just say how thankful I am for a coach who is willing to call this out?
What's the lesson this team needs to learn from this? Obviously, there was a ton of mistakes in this game, but you had a chance to win it, and just obviously came up short.
That's a great question. And, the lesson our team needs to learn is that every week's a battle. I mean, it doesn't matter who the other team is. And, our culture is not where it needs to be. And that starts with me. I'm the head of that. So, I'm putting that squarely on my shoulders. There's something about our culture I wish I could grab it. I've been on teams that had it, and then you don't want to let go of it. But when you don't have it, it's hard to figure out what it is. But there's something in our culture. It's my job to fix it, along with the coaches, of letting games like this get away. I mean, this is and that takes. Please understand that takes nothing away from the Rams, because the Rams executed their game plan. But I'm concerned with what our team does, and there's just we got to get over that hump, and we're not there.
Now, I know people are going to disagree with me, Bucs fans. People that I respect, other podcasts hosts that I fully respect, I know they're going to disagree with me on this, and that's okay. And I know some of you will too. I've seen the tweets out there. I saw somebody say, you know what creates a winning culture? Winning games. Or winning games is what brings in a winning culture. Yeah, I've seen that out there. But guys, I'm going to tell you they're wrong. They're wrong on this one. This isn't just a football discussion. This is a business discussion. This is a family dynamics discussion. This is a marriage discussion. This is a school discussion. Anytime you have more than one person coming together to try to accomplish a shared goal, culture must enter the conversation. All right, now we're going to try to keep it to football. I'm going to do my best to keep it in the realm of football. But culture permeates everything. That's why we have to talk about it. Culture is the thing that will make or break your ability to accomplish the goal on a long-term on a long-term basis. Okay, you can't have a marriage that has a bad culture within the marriage and have that marriage last. I mean, it can last for a little bit, but it will eventually crumble, or you two will just be bitter old hags. If it doesn't, it will kill you. Good marriages have a good culture within that marriage. A good business has a good culture within the business. Good football teams, okay, teams that win perennially, have a good culture within their locker room. And that's people say this all the time. If you just get your players to execute their positions, that's what it takes to win. And you know what? They're right. If you're just talking about a play, if you're just talking about a game, like just singular, everybody goes out, executes their positions, and that's what it takes to win. That's the physical thing of what it takes to win that. But culture, like Coach said, it's not something you can touch. It's something you can feel. Okay, it's not the number on the scoreboard. It's the attitude within the team. All right, and if you want to start talking about sustained wins over a long period of time, if you want to talk about a season that becomes a winning season, if you want to talk about multiple winning seasons year after year after year after year, that's not just people executing their position. Okay? You can disagree with me all you want, but I'm going to tell you you're wrong. And guys, you should understand that that's what I'm not talking about just winning the game here or there. I'm not talking about winning the game that's right in front of us. I'm talking about long, sustained, multiple wins, multiple winning seasons. All right, I'm talking about games where you can have some mistakes and maybe you get down, but you come back and win. Maybe you have some games that you lose. Maybe you have some games that you lose as a blowout, but you come back the next game and you win. And you keep going, and that just adds fire to the fuel. Because in a good culture, you can still have missteps. Okay, that does still happen. You can have people who don't execute. That can happen inside of a good culture. But culture will take over. And culture finds the way to come back and win. Good culture does. Bad culture will take over and go in and find a way to lose. You may believe that a winning culture comes from winning games, but I would tell you that winning games comes from a winning culture. And I think that's the same for every aspect in life. A winning business comes from a winning culture. A winning marriage comes from a winning culture within that marriage. Jack Welch, the great CEO of GE, when they were an amazing company, said, culture drives great results. And he's right. Culture drives great results. When you change a culture, you change the roots. Have you ever heard of this idea for doctors that they have to treat the cause, not just the symptoms? Now, my wife hates that. She does. She works in the medical field, and she says you have to treat both. Okay, you can't treat the cause of somebody's pain without actually treating the pain. Okay, fine. Listen, but if you only treat the symptoms, if you only treat the pain, you're not really fixing anything for the long term. You still have to treat the underlying cause. Listen, guys, bad cultures can win individual games, but they won't win seasons. Bad cultures can win a season here or there, but they won't win many seasons back to back to back to back. Good culture can lose individual games, but it won't lose seasons. A good culture may even have a down season for whatever reason. Maybe they're plagued by injuries that year or something happens. Who knows? But they'll bounce back the very next year. Good culture will do that. Guys, I'm going to tell you this. If you take nothing else from this segment, take this with you. The Bucs do not have a talent problem. We have a culture problem. We do not have a talent problem. We have a culture problem. We have plenty of talent on our team. Plenty of talent. You know, I thought we might have been a little bit further along on the road to changing our culture than maybe we are. Because I've talked about this since episode 1. If you guys have not gone back and listened to episode 2, I know a lot of you haven't because I see the numbers. Like episode 2 was the most listened to episode at the time, but we are now several episodes past that, and the people that download this show on a weekly basis are many, 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 many times the number of people who have downloaded episode 2 in total. So I would tell every single one of you guys, go back in the feed, download episode 2, and at least listen to the first segment where we talk about losing a losing culture. Where I kind of develop, here are the steps to losing that culture. Here's how it happens. I'm not gonna rehash that here. But I'll say this. Coach Koetter is doing the very first thing, which is called defining reality. Okay? You can't fix a problem until you admit that there's one. You can't get a vision for where you're going until you understand why where you are sucks. And here's the problem that most fans are not going to understand. Changing a culture takes time. And we don't want to give it any more time. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm getting ready to say this. Justin freaking Pulowski, Commish Online, Bucs Uncensored, the podcast that was released this morning, it's called Culture Club. Everybody go listen to that episode as soon as you're done with me right now. Like as soon as you're done with this episode, just play next and do his episode because it was fantastic. I don't know what has happened I don't know what has happened with him since he's gone over to Joe Bucs Fan, but something has changed with Justin Pulowski. And I got to tell you, he was right on. And one of the things he was talking about is that changing the culture is it's a 3 to 5 year deal, and we've been doing it for 10 to 15 years. And he's right. He's right. That's why we don't want to give him time anymore. Changing a culture takes time, and it's taken way too long for us to change the culture back around here. But on the one hand, you can understand we had a good culture. It took time to change it into a bad culture. And it's going to take that much more time to change it into a good culture. And you can't do that when you have a revolving door at head coach and in the GM spot. You can't do it. But Coach Koetter, he is defining reality for us. Here's what I would encourage Bucs fans to do. Watch what Coach Koetter is saying. What he is saying is a good thing, and we want to get on board with it. And that's what I encourage Bucs fans to do. Get on board with it. Because he is beginning to publicly address a root issue with the team. And even if he can't put his finger on it exactly, he knows what it is. Listen to this.
You mentioned yesterday about the culture needing to change around here. And would you be able to elaborate on that just a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely, I would. The best teams that I've been on beat with one heart. And they count on the guy next to them to do their job every time. And they win and lose together. And, you know, maybe our fans have cheered for a team like that at one point. Hopefully all of our players have played on a team. I know when I've been on teams like that, you can feel it, and, man, you want to grab it and hold on to its tail because it's elusive. When you don't have it, you can also feel it. And, you know, we're just missing something, I feel like, and, you know, as my title suggests, it's my job to speak up. And I feel like sometimes we find too many ways to lose a game instead of creating ways to win a game. Now, when I say that, I put myself right at the top. All right, I'm number one on that list. So I'm not calling out any player or any coach above myself, but that's just how I feel. And until we change that, we're going to have nights like last night.
Does it start with belief?
I'm sorry?
Does it start with belief and believing wholeheartedly? I mean, the guys, we had asked them in the locker room, you know, what were your thoughts going into that final drive? They all believed that they could win it. They believed that they had this.
Yeah,
thing.
our guys competed really hard last night. You know, we made a big point of emphasis here about competing. I think our guys did a good job of that last night. I mean, twice in the fourth quarter, we're down 2 scores, and both times we come back. I mean, when we got that sack fumble, that's about as demoralizing a play as you can get in football when you're going in to score. And for our guys to go back out and overcome that and give ourselves a chance at the end. So, again, it's elusive. It's an elusive thing. It's not something that you can just reach out there and put your fingers on. I think our guys believe for the most part, but I talked to the guys a lot about this today in the team meeting, and as I'm sure you can understand, a lot of that needs to stay between the players and the coaches. Hey, I know the fans are going to speculate, and this is the most popular game in the world, and I get it. I mean, but we got to figure it out, and we asked the fans to hang with us. It makes a difference, man. Those fans that were there at the end, however many that was, those fans when we came back out, that was the loudest the stadium was all night. Was when our defense went back out there for that 3rd and 11. Once again, our job to give the fans something to cheer about during the whole game. We got to find it, and I just don't think we should sit back and act like it doesn't exist, because in my eyes it does, and I've been on those teams that have it, and we're going to keep looking for it until we find it.
Coach, I know you don't want to make any excuses, but could it be as simple as these are just some of the bumps in the road that a young team has to go through?
One could hope that it could be as simple as that, but rarely is anything that simple.
So guys, what do we do with this? Listen, I know we're all anxious for wins, but let me ask you, what would you rather have? A single win here or there where we go out and dominate, or a sustained series of wins where we go out and maybe we fight hard and it becomes a way of life for the Bucs year after year that we're getting wins? Maybe we're on the wrong end of the scoreboard by the 3rd quarter, but in the 4th, we find a way to rally and come back for a win. Which would you rather have? Complete and total domination for a game here or there? Or something where we're actually winning game after game, even if it means we have to fight for it? A good culture does not mean we go out and dominate. I mean, it's nice. It's great if we can go out and dominate, but that's not what a good culture necessarily begets. Here's what I'll say, Bucs fans. Don't write off this culture thing. I know some of you are doing it. Just go win. Just go win. Don't write this off. This is important. Don't be flippant about it. This issue right here, this is life and death for the Bucs. You guys, that clip I played at the beginning of this segment, I played it back in episode 2, and I brought it forward into this one, the clip of Mike Messier. Now, I know they're a hockey team. I know they're talking about winning the Stanley Cup a bunch of years ago, but what he said was right on. What took them from a good team to a championship team was culture. They nailed culture, and it had everything to do with the players, with the organization, all the way to the fans. Guys, I'm going to tell you this. The reason that Raheem, Schiano, and Levy are not here, and I would even dare say Gruden is not here anymore, is because they failed to address the culture. Tony Dungy came in and addressed the culture of the team, and look where that led us to. Now, Tony Dungy getting fired, I think, was a misstep on the part of ownership. They traded a singular Super Bowl win for what could have been a decade of playoff berths and Super Bowls. Possibly more than 1 or 2 Super Bowl wins in that time. I think that was a misstep on their part, because they didn't see the architect, or they misplaced who the architect of the culture was. Because Sapp and Brooks were certainly a big part of that, but it was Tony Dungy, make no mistake. Now listen, guys, under Gruden, I don't want to downplay John Gruden. All right, he brought us our first Super Bowl win. He was a good coach. All right. Our team had good talent while he was here. But after the Super Bowl, we deconstructed our team and we lost the culture that had been developed. We lost the culture. We lost seasons. But we still had talent. Talent still allowed us to compete, but we couldn't go anywhere with it. Now, for those who don't want to wait for the wins, I would say this. We have the talent on this team to win and to win now. We have plenty of talent. There's a few holes that I would like to see shored up, but we have talent on this team to win and to win now. We may even have the talent to still make it into the playoffs this year. You know, I talked about it just at the end. We go 1-3 in the first quarter, 2-2 in the second, 3-1 in the second, and suddenly people are talking about the Bucs being in the playoffs again. That happened last year. It happened this year again. Would be even better is if we win this week and we go 2-2 in our first quarter, and we go 3-1 and 3-1. How about that? That'd be awesome. You want to know why last year we ate it 0-4 in the final quarter of the season? You could say it's because Quan. You could say it's because Lovey. I would say it's because Lovey. I would say it's because of culture. We ate it because of the culture of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So if we lose to the Broncos this weekend, we start the season 1-3. We've got Carolina, the 49ers, the Raiders, and Atlanta. Think we can go 2-2 there? Probably. There's not a game on our schedule we can't win, folks. Not one. We have the talent. And if they start executing and doing their job, that could happen. We could go 2-2 in the next quarter. We could go 3-1 in the next quarter. Hell, we could even go 4-0 in the next quarter. And we could go 1-3. It could happen again. Guys, what we lack right now is the culture to sustain wins for years to come. So here's what it'll take. You ready? Okay, I'll give you 4 little things real quick. Here's what it'll take. 1, you have to get rid of people that are carrying the DNA of losing and can't or won't change. And I don't care how much talent they have. And I'm going to say this. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Gerald McCoy, I'm going to pick on him. I said it earlier today that you're not going to find a bigger Gerald McCoy apologist than me right here who doesn't receive a paycheck from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If Gerald McCoy is carrying the DNA of a losing culture, I don't care how much talent he has to go. I don't think that's him, but I'm just pointing that out. I don't care who it is. If you're carrying the DNA of losing and you can't change it or won't change it, you got to go. The other thing is you have to bring in players, even if they're a lesser talent, that carry the culture of DNA, that carry the DNA of a winning culture, whether it's through the draft or through the free agency. You know who did this for us? Logan Mankins. Look at what happened to the offensive line in just 2 years with him on it, and we're still feeling the effects. I would tell you guys this right now. The reason the offensive line is having the success it is right now is because Logan Mankins came in and did what he did, and he built a culture in the offensive line room. And there's good talent on the offensive line. And George Warhop's able to carry that through. But I would tell you that's Logan Mankins. Now, I don't know J.R. Sweezy. I don't know what his deal is. He might be a fine guard. I don't know that he's going to bring the culture of Logan Mankins. Maybe he is. I think Robert Ayers is that guy too. He brought in a good DNA culture with him when he came. And that's why we're missing him when he's off the field. What else it'll take? It'll take big-time playmakers to step up in real ways on the field and in the locker room. Gerald McCoy, Jameis Winston, I'm looking at you. This is what Jameis was actually leading Gerald to do more of. Gerald talked about it in a radio show this last week. He said, hey, listen, Jameis came in. He asked me to be more vocal. I don't like that, but I can do it. And he says that that's what this team needs in order to win. So I'm going to do it. And turns out I'm pretty good at it. Awesome, Gerald McCoy. Awesome. Keep it up. Good on you, Jameis, for leading, for calling that out in somebody else who's been on the team for a long time. And the 4th thing you have to do, guys, is you have to curate, tend, care for, water, and nurture the culture. Great leaders of great businesses understand this. You want a real good picture of this? Here's the book I told you guys with audible.com I want you to go get. Pick up Creativity Inc. by Ed Catmuir. This is the story of Pixar. Like the movie studio. They did Toy Story, Monsters Inc., Ratatouille, those movies. It's the story of Pixar. And do you know who pops up inside of this story? Names like George Lucas, Steve Jobs, Jeff Katzenberg, I think is his name, from over at Disney. This is a super, super interesting read on the history of Pixar and how they created the culture there. The reason, and you guys, here's the thing. This is what Ed Catmuir will tell you. The reason that Pixar is able to produce the quality of movies that they do, the phenomenally great movies that evict an emotional response in you, is because of the culture they have at Pixar. And when Disney came in and bought Pixar, they looked at these guys and they said, you have an amazing culture here. Our culture sucks and our movies have been suffering because of it. You come in and lead our culture as well. And Ed Catmuir and John Lasseter took over the reins at Disney, and they're kind of holding the reins of both studios. Fantastic read. You guys, you can get it for free right now. Go to audibletrial.com/thepewtercast. Sign up and you get a free download. Make that your free download. Super, super interesting read, especially if you love movies. Okay, like I love movies a lot. But this is a great example of how the product comes from the culture, not the other way around. Not the other way around. You have to be intentional with creating a culture. It happens organically, but it can happen intentionally. All right, folks. Well, I think I've probably beat that horse dead. And now it's your turn to talk. It's your turn to tell me where I'm wrong, or to send me snarky comments, or to tell me I'm making too much out of this culture thing, or to tell me that I'm right on and you 100% agree with me because you know I'm right. Well, you can let me know by connecting with me on Twitter at @thepewtercast or on facebook.com/thepewtercast. Or for you more winded types, you can shoot us an email to thepewtercast@gmail.com. Hey, one thing real quick, talking about Facebook. Did you guys know, for the Fantasy Football League that we have going on here, that every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I hop on live on Facebook and we do recommendations for Buccaneer players that you may have in your fantasy league. So if you've got Buccaneer players in your Fantasy Football League, go over to the Facebook page. I'm going to give you recommendations for what you should do with those players this week in fantasy football. That comes out every Thursday, 1 o'clock. It's a live video, and you can go back and watch the video later. Just a little plug for that. All right, guys, well, that's going to do it for this segment. Coming up next, we're going to close out the show with a little bit of Buck in the News. I'm calling it the ASJ Situation 3.0. Stay tuned. Hey, Pewtercast fans, just want to take a moment to send a shout out to Audible.com for coming on board as our first official sponsor here of the podcast. Now listen, you're listening to a podcast, which means I know you love listening to spoken word, and listening to an audiobook is really not that different. So if you want to check it out, you can get a free audiobook and a sample free 30-day trial just by going to audibletrial.com/thepewtercast. They have over 180,000 titles that you can choose from for your iPhone, your Android, your Kindle, your MP3 player. You know, I just mentioned in the last segment that you can pick up Creativity Inc. by Ed Catmuir. It's the story of Pixar. It's a fantastic book. Or maybe you're a movie fan like me and you know that Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is coming out here really soon. And you know what? Audible has all of the Harry Potter series also. And there's a ton of other things that you can go out there and download and listen to. Whatever tickles your fancy, you can get out there. So to download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/thepewtercast. Again, that's audibletrial.com/thepewtercast to get your free audiobook. Well, welcome back, Pewtercast fans. This is our final segment of the show for today, and we are calling it the ASJ Situation 3.0. Well, guys, as I'm sure you know by now, Austin Seferian-Jenkins is no longer a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Actually, as of this recording right now, he is a New York Jet. He was picked up by the Jets, claimed off waivers almost immediately, or I guess immediately, just as soon as all the clearings came out. And he's not here anymore. Now, I want to bring this up because I think something has kind of come to light about the whole situation that I want to wrap it up with. And I think it just means something. It's something that's near and dear to my own heart, and I want to talk about it. Now, you guys may remember with the ASJ Situation 1.0 that we reported that we talked about back in June was when Austin Seferian-Jenkins got kicked out of practice, and then he went on this big Twitter tirade telling fans that he's gonna fight them and beat them to a bloody pulp and whatever. And man, it was just a boneheaded move. An absolute boneheaded move. And then we came out with this ASJ Situation 2.0 where we said, it looks, ASJ came out and he apologized, which was the right thing to do. Whether it was sincere or not, it was the right thing to do. And he was doing things that seemed to ingratiate himself with the fans. He was learning the playbook. He was named the number 2 tight end, or actually I guess maybe the 3 or 4 tight end, whatever. And he worked himself up to sharing like the number 1 spot with Cam Brate. And things seem to be going good for him. Now, ASJ had a couple of okay first games, caught a couple of touchdowns. Things seem to be going well. And then he gets picked up for a DUI. Cop was actually going to let him off. And he talks himself into it. He just couldn't shut up. And that's what happens when you're drunk. And then Coach Koetter goes out on the radio and he says these words. And I think maybe it clears up the whole thing. At least it puts something out there for us to talk about. He says, there are other issues going on with Austin Seferian-Jenkins that we just can't get into on the radio. But I wish him luck and I hope he gets healthy. Now, I don't know about you guys, but to me, reading between the lines, when you go back and you think about why maybe he got kicked out of practice in the first place, what is happening here, and even his past history with the DUI, that maybe, just maybe, I don't know. I've never talked to ASJ. I don't know what the situation is. But let's pause it. Let's just run with this because it's going to be good conversation. What if ASJ is addicted to alcohol? What if he's an alcoholic? And I'm talking full on addicted to it. Not just that he likes to go out and get his drink on, but that he's addicted to it. Is it possible that ASJ came in and he was actually hungover? That he didn't know what he was doing, or he didn't know the playbook, or whatever it was, and the reason for that is because he was hungover. Maybe last year when Coach Lovey kind of kept Austin Seferian-Jenkins from coming back. Remember that? Like, we kept feeling like he should come back, but he didn't. Maybe that had something to do with his drinking. And guys, I know it's real easy to sit back and go, well, he's a jerk. Well, he's a horrible person. How could he do this to the team? Guys, addiction's a real thing. It's a real thing. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever struggled with addiction. I assume some of you guys probably have. But here's a great definition for what addiction does. Addiction forces you to do something that when you're in your right mind, you don't want to do it. I think that's just a great definition for what addiction does. When you're in your right mind, you sit there and you say, I don't want to do this. But then you find yourself doing it anyway. That's addiction. Now listen, consequences still exist. Okay? Consequences 100% still exist. But if ASJ is addicted, if that's really what this is, then I would say the worst thing that could have happened to ASJ is that he gets picked up by the Jets. And we all know the Jets don't have a good culture up there. ASJ needs help. The man needs help. He's got to get over this. And you know what? When you're addicted to something, you're addicted for life. You can't go back to it. You can't ever go back to it. So on the one hand, guys, I'm glad that ASJ is gone. Hopefully that was a wake-up call. Hopefully that has sparked something that helps him get into rehab, if this is the case. But also because that kind of stuff is part of what leads to a culture of losing. When you have somebody who can't kick their demons. Now, maybe we shouldn't just kick him to the curb. I don't know what the history with ASJ was in this whole deal. I don't know how the team had tried to help him. I don't know how much they had tried to cover some stuff up for him, how much they had tried giving him chance after chance. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. And that's what I mean when I say consequences still exist. He's going to have to face this stuff. But guys, before we go blast him and just saying how bad he is and how bad of a person and how could he do this to us, I want us to stop and think, what if there's something more going on? What if it is this addiction thing? And guys, suddenly my anger turns to pity. It turns to sorrow. And guys, it turns my thoughts to you. If you're addicted to something, if you find yourself in a spot of addiction, get help. Because you can't do it on your own. That's not a pride thing. I mean, it takes humility. It takes losing your pride. It takes some humility to get help, but it's not about your pride. If you find yourself addicted to any substance, whether it's drugs, alcohol, maybe it's food, maybe it's something else, get help. Get help, guys. That's my message for you this week, is get help. Well, guys, that's going to do it for our show. If you'd like to chime in on the conversation we had today, you can do that in a couple of ways on Facebook or Twitter at the Pewtercast, or drop me an email. If you find yourself in a spot where you need some help and you don't know where to turn, you can turn to me. Guys, I've been there before. I can help point you in the right direction. Shoot me an email, thepewtercast@gmail.com. I do respond to all forms of communication, and if it's pretty good, I just may read it on air. Hey, Bucs fans, let me say this one more time. Don't underestimate the power of culture. Most of the time, you don't have a talent problem. You have a culture problem. Changing a culture takes intentional actions moving forward on the part of the leaders. And if you find yourself in a leadership position, culture is on you. You can change the culture, and you can change the season. You can change the Bucs. Well, guys, until this next game, I'm wishing you all a great weekend and say it's time for us to buck the Broncos.